This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Welcome everybody to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Look, finally we have now a reason to eliminate emails. Adam will never email me again. I will never email Adam ever again. And we now have removed one form of communication for the betterment of the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. What's up, cuz? What's happening? We're having a better week, I think, than John Gruden is.
That's for damn sure. On Mine and V's podcast that you can download on this very network every single Friday, we kind of discuss some of our email faux pas and things that might have got us in trouble. I ended up getting fired from a job because of stuff I sent in an email. So similar to John Gruden, but definitely not racist or homophobic or misogynistic. It was just talking shit about a manager. That's all.
Yeah, man. It's just really weird because of the fact that John Gruden got caught up in a whole other investigation. But, you know, he's got a great...
the craziest part about the whole damn thing?
That's the craziest part.
He's like basically the chunk of cheese that they're feeding us, and there's like a bigger slice of the pie that's not really getting discussed, and the NFL's not giving anything out about this. Or the internal investigation that's going on, you're getting nothing on that. But here's John Gruden for you. You all sink your teeth into this, and everybody's all wrapped up in John Gruden, but there's like a whole bunch of misdirection going on. I love the way the NFL does business. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, when the boss is Roger Goodell and the name shows up with a very derogatory comment from John Gruden, you probably are going to lose your $10 million a year job. So
he called
that was that.
What, the P word, and he called him the 3-letter F word?
Absolutely. And it was a while back, but yeah, John Gruden had no shame. He hit all the isms. I mean, he hit the grand slam of isms out there. So it's unfortunate, but you know, like I said, he got the big contract 2018, 19, 20. So he got $30 million, whatever it was let go to do to taxes. He's got a nice windfall to go away, but yeah, he better lay low for the next 12 months because he is right now the eye of the storm, and it's only just beginning, too, because now the cheerleaders from the Washington football team, they're putting pressure with their lawyers on sponsors. They want to know, okay, you guys did this investigation. Where are the fruits of your labor? We haven't seen a single thing. You can't hide this forever. And then the crazy part was Wednesday, Adam Schefter gets involved, and he sparked the whole journalism and ethics debate all over the interwebs. And just listening to the people, oh, man, journalists are all up in arms. I can't believe that Adam Schefter would do that to gain favor. And I think everybody that has a brain is like, dude, he's making $7 million a year minimum. Hell, who the hell cares about ethics? He did it. He's not really a journalist. And people just kind of happen to forget that when ESPN pays the NFL, let's just say $2 billion for rights. You're not journalistically ethical anyway. All your reporters are not reporters. Your guys are partners, which means that you guys are working together. One entity paid another entity for access, so it's not exactly the true bastion of journalism in regards to a TV broadcast right. So I don't view Adam Schefter as a journalist. I view him as a talented marketer who built up a following, and he's got access to information, and he's taken that information and he's given it to the world in a market that people want for their fantasy team. So I don't view Adam Schefter as the beacon of journalism. And if you're butthurt about what he's doing, I'm sorry. Everyone's doing it every day to get ahead. When you throw 7 figures out there to somebody, someone's going to dangle that carrot and is going to do some things that might be unethical, you know, in the eyes of journalism. But, you know, I never realized Michigan doesn't even have a journalism school. So hence, that's why I don't trust nobody from the Michigan university that goes there in regards to journalism. You guys don't even have a school.
Look, don't lump me in there. I didn't graduate from there. I just support the football team and the basketball team and the athletics. That's all right? But no, you're right. They don't. They have actually a very good writing program, a very good literature program. But no, you're right. They don't have a journalism program. Look, I ended up going to Oakland University, which, whatever. You know, all of their curriculum based off of what you get at MSU. So it's like I'm MSU light here, all right? So don't go throwing me into whatever that fray is. But you're, you know what? I will tell you this much: U of M Dearborn has a pretty good journalism school. I didn't know if you knew that. That's real. For some reason, Ann Arbor doesn't. It doesn't make any damn sense to me. Whatever. Yeah, no, neither here nor there.
Anything to rile up journalists is hilarious to me. Like, oh my God, Adam, how dare you?
Here's the thing, right? Like, you hit it pretty much, you hit the nail on the head. The NFL, ESPN, like, all these things that happened with John Gruden happened while he was, like, at ESPN. ESPN didn't have a problem with this. Like, they have access to those same emails. And then for Adam Schefter to come out and basically do what he did, like, yeah, he basically gets all of his information from people at the NFL. Like, the only reason he's on this pedestal that he's on is because he's basically filtered the stuff from the company that ESPN's paying the money to. Like, you just follow the dollars, guys. Follow the dollars. That's all it is. I don't know. It's crazy to me that people get so worked up about it. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just more simple. I'm not sure. But to me, it's what it is, man. It's like, I'm blown away that John Gruden that he basically said everything he said. Like, that's crazy to me. Watching those old Monday Night Football games when he was the lead analyst, the guy was like, found something positive about everybody. It was weird. Like, he would spit shine turds all day long. And like, you watch him in his little QB room where he's got the quarterbacks drawing everything up. I mean, like, they're horrible quarterbacks, and he's over there spit shining those turds too. So for him to come out and be as vulgar and derogatory towards basically everybody, like you said, he had all the isms, was absolutely bonkers to me. It was bananas.
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things where bottom line is, if you are going to be derogatory, don't send it in a public email. They will get released. Eventually, somebody will come to find them. So it's just I just can't believe the audacity of somebody to send those emails. And then I guess the fascinating part too that people want to know is what was sent back. What did Bruce Allen say back? Was he offended? Was he like joking around?
Was he like, just screw all those people, you know?
Yeah. No, it's just a crazy time we're living in, and if you're making big money, you gotta be careful. Just bottom line, don't send those emails. Send nasty texts and start from there. But we'll see how this progresses, because it's just the tip of the iceberg. So we'll see how this further, what the NFL, how they try and dodge and weave this Washington football team investigation. So let's turn our attention to the Detroit Lions, another tough, brutal loss. This one, though, for me, cuz, did not register as painful. You just knew, 37 seconds left. Oh, okay, you took the lead. You have a 17-16 lead. You gave Kirk Cousins 37 seconds. Are they really going to stop him? And I told myself, no. And when you're working, you have a couple stories to write, and you're, handling it from that perspective. But bottom line, I'll take a silver lining approach with this one. The defense played a lot better than they have been in recent months. But unfortunately, when it comes down to making the key play late in the game, they simply can't do it. And Dan Campbell did not make an adaptation to the defense in terms of rushing only 3. He did it again, and he again said it was a good call, just bad execution. And Kirk Cousins found the open receiver, boom, 54-yarder with the – and, of course, in a afternoon filled with missed extra points and field goals, the Minnesota kicker is setting 2 records for himself in terms of length of field goals. So that's how the Lions operate. They fall to 0-5. Are you kind of getting numb to it? Because for me, it just kind of has the feel of like, okay, here we go again. It's kind of expected at this point in time. These Lions are going to lose. And not only are they going to lose, they're going to lose in spectacular fashion.
I wouldn't say numb to it, but what I would say is I'm kind of on the same boat as you, where it didn't hurt as bad this week, and I wasn't as worked up, and I wasn't frustrated like I was the previous 2 weeks. And I think a lot of the reason for that is I've seen growth this week. I've seen growth from a head coach that we've questioned, and I myself have held his feet to the fire. So I was thoroughly impressed what I seen out of Dan Campbell. I thought he did a really good job taking what was in front of him. He took field goals when he had to take field goals, didn't try pressing, didn't put his team in a bad spot. And then when the team kind of gets going and they're able to execute on offense and they're kind of feeling themselves a little bit, he pushed the gas a little bit and went for 2. And I'll be honest with you, when he was lining up to go for 2, before that I was like, they should probably go for 2. Like, this team has been highly ineffective all day long. You have this position to take the lead. What the hell is it going to hurt? So if he would have went for 1, that probably would have been the smart play, and that's what the playbook tells you to do, right? If he goes for 2, it's a little bit aggressive, and I didn't really mind it because it wasn't going to hurt the team. In the end, they end up executing the 2-point conversion, which I found to be fantastic because a couple of things there. One, you go for 2 when you have a chance to tie the game, possibly push it to overtime, and hopefully the coin flips your way and you're able to execute and you got a little bit of momentum and you could try to win that way. Instead, he says, no, we're going to put all of our eggs in this basket. We're going to go for it. And he goes for it with a pass play with your quarterback who has turned the ball over more than just about anybody in the NFL. There seems to be no point where Jared Goff can really hold on to a football. And he is able to trust Jared Goff enough to execute a play with these receivers, with basically a receiver that they grabbed off the scrap heap, threw him in and was like, hey, go out there and do this, execute this. And they did it. They executed it. I was pumped. I was excited. I was like, oh my God, these guys are going to trick around and win this game. I said, Dan Campbell needs to get a Gatorade shower after they win this game, only to have the defense kind of let them down a little bit. I didn't have a problem with the play calling on defense, but again, it was the defensive execution. There was a breakdown again in that secondary that again foils this team and unravels a chance to win a game, and makes Kirk Cousins look like he's Tom Brady light, Kirk Cousins on that 45-second drive wasn't even like a 2-minute hurry-up offense. It was like a 45-second hurry-up offense to get them into field goal position to kick a 54-yard field goal. He was supreme. He was like a hot knife through butter, and that falls on the defense. That's on the defense for not being able to execute and not being able to convert the play that they need to do. And I didn't have a problem with this loss. Like, I was like, okay, cool. Like, once that game was over, I laughed to myself because I was like, of course, only the Lions basically setting records here. Only team in the NFL to lose games by field goals of 50-plus yards in a season. So it's going to be a record-breaking season. They're already setting them. But I didn't have a problem. I said I would take this loss, this type of loss, every single week if it meant that I was getting the growth from the head coach. I was seeing things done on offense. That defense is piss poor. I think we both agree on that. But I seen growth from the head coach, and that's important to me because I've been high on the Dan Campbell train. I've said this is the guy. I like him. I'm ride or die with Dan Campbell. And the last 2 weeks, he pissed me off. Like, pissed me off. And this week, it looks like he didn't take my feedback, obviously, but he watched his mistakes and he learned from them. And I'm cool with it, man. I'm cool with this loss. And I'm excited to see Dan Campbell 5 games into the season making adjustments to how he calls the game. And I think if you're a Lions fan, that should be the one thing you should take away from this loss. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it hurts. But you got a silver lining here. Your head coach doesn't make the same mistakes and doesn't put his team in a position where they're going to lose a game. Obviously, the defense has to execute a little bit better, but I don't know. Am I crazy here? Because I like what I'm seeing from Dan Campbell. I like what happened in this game, even though they lost.
I'll tell you this. The warts, for me, outweigh the benefits because just look at how everything shakes out with the Lions. What was supposed to be the strength of the team? The offensive line. You lose a key player. And Penei Sewell, somebody you're counting on, right? And we didn't even mention Everson Griffin in that he came back to use whatever he had left in the tank to blow by Penei Sewell and cause one of those fumbles. So on back-to-back plays, he embarrasses Penei Sewell and shows off the repertoire that he developed over the course of his career, and he took advantage of a young rookie. And now, if you look at the rankings, the Lions' offensive line is ranked 25th. So that was supposed to be a strength. Okay, fine. T.J. Hawkinson, supposed to be a strength. Defenses are like, oh, okay. We'll find ways to limit his productivity. And Dan Campbell said that him returning from not practicing caused some timing issues. His production has plummeted. And you're like, okay, so what do you have left? You basically have a team that plays hard on defense and now can't score touchdowns. And everything that has brought us to concern in terms of the wide receivers, Quintez Cephas goes out, slams his shoulder, breaks his collarbone. He's gone. Frank Ragnow, he's gone. So it's just an infirmary ward with these Detroit Lions, and they're limping already to the bye week. And it's only week 6. So this is really, really tough in that, this Detroit Lions team can't put it together offensively and defensively. And like I said, Jared Goff with the turnovers, it was good that they competed. It was nice that, obviously I think you and I will agree that was cool that they went for 2. I was definitely against it because I had no belief that they would make it. And look at that. Kadero Hodge, runs in the back of the end zone and Goff finds him. That's great. But you just, for whatever reason, and it defies logic because you and I kind of watch other games too, just to kind of, I think, flush out the nasty taste that we get from the Lions. And you watch it and you go, this stuff that happens to the Lions defies logic. It almost would make a head coach cry after a football game. All the weird ass shit that happens to the Lions. I mean, even Dan Campbell is now bipolar. You see how pissed he got? Late in the game when the offense couldn't secure the first down, he came out and said Monday he just got upset because they didn't block it right. And he goes, we practiced it. We went over it. We said this is what we want to run, and one of the players did not block and execute it correctly. So Dan Campbell is pissed off at the offense, has to taste another nasty late game field goal, NFL record, only NFL organization in history to lose 2 games by a last second 50-yard or more field goal. And he comes to the podium and starts crying. And you're like, oh, I get it. I know that feeling when you're just put so much into it. You're going hard at it and you're just bewildered and flustered and you got to talk to the media. But I wouldn't call it, like a lot of people messaged us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, I wouldn't call it being lionized. It's just really unfortunate that Dan Campbell's first year is going to go down as a 1-win season. That's just what we're looking at. They don't got it, and what they're doing is, which is, you've seen now, the people that message us at Detroit Podcast, the people they're signing are just practice squad guys, and you hope one of them hits. You've got Charles Harris. That's been a nice addition, but other than that, nobody's come in and really taken over. So, what did you make of Dan Campbell crying? I just thought that was the most crazy thing from the weekend, is that Dan Campbell got so emotional after a loss, the 5th consecutive one to start the season.
I don't think he was lionized. I don't think that's his lionized moment, and I don't think this is going to be one of those things that we end up looking back on and being like, yeah, that was where the wheels fell off. I don't think that's this moment. I think what you have is you have a guy who's incredibly frustrated, and he's connected to this team. Whether this team is good or bad or whatever you want to call them, right? I think they're all a bunch of try-hard guys. I think there's little to no talent on this team. I think we could go through and on basically 2 hands, we could count all of the guys who are talented on this roster and could start or play for another roster. All right, could play for a Super Bowl caliber team or even a playoff caliber team. I don't think this team has it. So I think what you get is you get guys who show up every single week and they lay it on the line and they try their damnedest, but they're just not good. And you see it with the failings with the defensive execution. You see it with the failings with the offensive play you just called, right? They practiced the damn play. They ran it in practice a bunch of times. And this team couldn't go out and execute it because somebody messed up. Somebody wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. And that's how it happens every single week. It's always one guy ends up dropping the ball. You know, the last 2 weeks where the defense has basically been taken advantage of late in games, it's because it's been one guy who has a mental lapse and doesn't do his job, doesn't take care of what he's supposed to take care of in the defensive scheme. Offensively, it's very similar things. You know, the only problem is I think they tend to be highlighted a little bit more because a lot of times that one guy who's messing up a little bit is we're going to call him your franchise tackle. I don't know if Penei Sewell is going to be your left or he's going to be your right, but we're going to call him your franchise tackle. And it's your quarterback in Jared Goff. You know, Jared Goff has turned the ball over more than just about anybody in the NFL right now. And these guys are supposed to be leaders of this team. Maybe not Penei Sewell so much because he's a rookie, but he's a guy who you're leaning on and you're counting on, especially with that offensive line. And they just keep making mistakes, keep screwing things up. And I think what you have is you have Dan Campbell just being frustrated, and he's an emotional guy. He's a raw guy. And I think that rawness endears him, one, to his team, but also endears him to the city. I think people in the city love the fact that this guy is so transparent and basically gives it to you how it is, tells you how it is, and lets you know, this is what I'm feeling right now. And I think it just kind of bubbled over in that press conference, because this is a guy who so freaking close to winning his first game. And for this team, and I think it's more important for this team, not so much for him, but for this team to win their first game this season, because they've been out there scrapping. You know, I mean, go back to the first game of the season, the game against the 49ers. They clawed their way back. We can debate on whether or not the 49ers kind of let up and that allowed the Lions to get back in the game. Whether that be the case or not, they were within one possession of possibly winning that game. You look at the Baltimore game. My estimation, that's a game they should have won. They ended up losing that on a miracle field goal. Fast forward to Sunday's loss. That's another game they should have won, and they didn't. You know, it's always something. It's always this one thing. Yeah. I don't think this team is talented enough to compete with your average football team. But what I think is it's a team that gets up, and it plays up for their coach, and it plays up to their coaching staff. And I think this coaching staff, for the most part, has this team in good positions every single week. Do I think they're perfect? Absolutely not. But I think that you've got guys who are taking other guys that are basically scrap heap, less thans, try hard guys, and trying to win professional football games. And I think you're seeing it's not as easy as it looks. You know, not every team is like a New England Patriots, right? Where I think we all agree New England's probably not going to play in a playoff game. New England's just they're just a team. They're there. I think New England's going to probably finish in the bottom half of the league this year, maybe even bottom third. But they're able to still go out there and win games, and they're able to keep games close against a Super Bowl caliber team like the Tampa Bay Bucks. The Lions team doesn't have talent like what you got over there in New England. You just don't have it. And you don't have the talent that probably 31 other teams have. I mean, I think it is basically, this is what I correlate it to. You tell me if I'm crazy. It is essentially a one-legged cat on a frozen pond trying to bury a turd. That is exactly what this team is. And the only other team that is going to match it for ineptitude this year, I think, might be the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they've got their own mess of problems. I just don't think this team has it. I don't think they're a good team. And you're right, this team will probably only win that one game. And that being said, all the injuries compound everything. They don't help. They don't help with the development of this roster. They don't help with moving, I guess, everything forward the way we want it to get moved forward. So does the timeline now get pushed back a year? Does this year basically just get crumbled up, thrown in the garbage, and we just say, well, it doesn't really count? Because how do you make it count when you don't have starters all over the place and you don't really know what you have? You don't know what you have in Jeff Okudah. You don't know what Romeo Okwara was going to actually give you this year after he signs a pretty nice contract. You don't know what Penei Sewell is going to actually be as he's now dealing with an injury. You don't know what this offensive line is going to look like as Taylor Decker's been out for most of the season. Taylor Decker's been out for all of the season so far. Penei Sewell's dealing with an injury, and now you've got Frank Ragnow who's on IR. So you don't know what anything looks like on this team. So does the whole timeline we're just going to wait. We're just going to hit the pause button.
And exactly, because the way in which it shakes out is you got a free agency and draft class coming up. So that means you got another year of Jared Goff. So if you draft a quarterback in 2023, you're not going to end up starting that quarterback because they're going to end up looking like Zach Wilson, tossing interceptions all over the place left and right. And so that's year 3. So Dan Campbell, to be honest, 6 years, he should have signed 8 years. He literally should have said, give me those 2 extra years, because 1 and 2, I don't think that in his wildest estimation would he have thought that he would lose 3 of his most talented players, Okudah, Okwara, and Frank Ragnow, all in the same year. But if it's going to happen, might as well happen year 1, because there are some top-end players in terms of Thibodeau and maybe Malik Willis down the line in terms of a quarterback that we can discuss, maybe a safety, maybe the top cornerback that we'll look at. So, yeah, we're going to start looking at the draft in the next coming weeks. But we still got the Stafford game, the bye week. I just think this team needs a win in the worst possible way just to kind of reap the rewards of 1 week of work because they're gripping. It's a team that plays hard. Drew Brees, even on the broadcast on Sunday Night Football, came out and said that he texted Dan Campbell, and he said, man, your team is playing hard, and you guys are close. Close to what? Maybe breaking through, maybe against the Bengals, if you can kind of confuse Joe Burrow a little bit, but I don't see this group of talent winning 2-3, running off a string of victories just because of the fact that they're so shorthanded and that teams can quickly expose the young defensive backs. I mean, literally, if a numbskull like me who sucks at fantasy but had an epic comeback, if a numbskull like me knows to rush to pick up Alexander Madison, I don't even know a single thing. I don't even know the man from a hole in the wall. I couldn't even tell you if that dude was Caucasian, African American, Hispanic. I don't know anything about him. All I knew was, Dalvin Cook's not going to be playing against the Lions. Let me go pick him up because there's a player that potentially could get points. And Alexander Madison got 27 points as opposed to one of my other 9 injured running backs that got 3. So if an idiot like me could figure it out within 2 seconds, what do you think advanced offensive coordinators who understand football can do with this defensive line that's inexperienced and just quite frankly goes away from pressure in key moments? They're just going to take advantage of you. They're just going to confuse you. They're going to sell one thing and do another. I mean, damn near Justin Jefferson had 105 yards at the half. And, he
was eating them alive all day.
He was eating them alive.
Does it give you any hope, though, that, and maybe this is more on the coaches, and maybe this is where that question should be directed. Does maybe the coaching staff at least give you hope? Because you got to realize what they're doing this with. No, but look at what they're doing it with. I mean, you just talked about how they're getting eaten alive and how they're basically they're guys out there who are picked up off the scrap heap, and like these aren't starters who are on this roster. These are like third line guys, fourth line guys, practice squad players that are getting thrust into duty, and you're expecting them to hold up in key moments of games. Good teams don't even have these types of problems, but the Lions do.
No, here's why. Because I fully expect Lynn and Aaron Glenn to be gone. I think that an NFL team would be wise if you look at what Aaron Glenn done defensively to have remember, the Ravens just lit up a team on Monday Night Football. In the fourth quarter, the Lions contained Lamar Jackson for the most part until it was crunch time. So I think a team would be wise to give Aaron Glenn an opportunity. Maybe not next year, but I fully expect this coaching staff to fall apart and move on because of the fact that Anthony Lynn could go to USC, could go get another opportunity in the NFL his offense is too bland, I think, in terms of creativeness for the NFL level, but if USC comes a-calling. So I don't know.
Is that more an issue of him, or is that more an issue of the quarterback?
No, I think it's the issue of the wide receivers. They don't get enough separation in speed and size. So I think that Anthony Lynn calls a good game. Jamal Williams, DeAndre Swift, he calls a respectable game in terms of where this team can be in games. It's just you don't have enough. You need the one thing is that you need to have explosive plays. You need to be able to, have a wide receiver go 17 yards and cut and get open and have your quarterback zing it. When Jared Goff, literally to highlight the struggles of Jared Goff, the one time he let it rip, right? He scrambles and he throws it. Watch the replay of just that play. Because of his lack of arm strength, you could have caught up from 20 yards back and made the play. You see, he made an attempt to throw it to, I believe, Khalif Raymond, and it was so slow that the defender had ample time to just kind of gallop in and be part of the breakup. And that's just that's the unfortunate part of what Jared Goff brings to the table, is that if there's pressure or if there's anything that's not perfect in the play, it's just going to be all janky and it's not going to work. So, and in 5 weeks, you can't make the play perfect. You can't block perfect. You can't have perfect protection. You can't have perfect route running wide open. That's what Jared Goff really needs. He needs the 6 tools to have a completed pass. Great protection, great time, receiver open, receiver running the great route, proper blocking, and for Jared Goff to execute himself. So, and in any play, 2 of those things are going to fall apart. just due to the fact that these guys on defense are so fast. So, Cincinnati, I kind of think it's going to be a close game. Maybe a better opportunity to get your first win. If it's not the Bengals, it's probably going to be the Eagles. But I could fully see this Lions team being 0-8 by the bye week. And it can't be as bad because it's a rebuild. It just stinks because you don't really know what you have because you lost the talent. I would have loved to have seen Campbell coach Okudah, Ragnow, and Romeo Okwara for the whole year. Quintez Cephas. I mean, that's 4 pieces of 53 man that were expected to contribute. And of course, Quintez Cephas was emerging. He was somebody that was making a couple plays here and there. So it's just really, really a tough situation. It's fun. The attitude's still light out there at Allen Park, but it comes with no expectations. So I just really hope that this team doesn't go 0-17 because I just don't think that I could handle it. I don't think the fan base could handle it. You're starting to hear rumblings and grumblings of people looking at it, the coaching and everything like that. And just bottom line, let's just focus on the one play. You watch football, I watch football. Why not just go down in flames? Because here's the thing. It's, a situation in which you just saw a field goal kicker burn you. And I understand the philosophy. He's not wrong. The defense is not wrong philosophically to rush 3 and to have 8 back there to limit big plays, to not allow someone to go behind you. I get the philosophy, but you saw one breakdown, one receiver goes underneath, and the extra defender goes to him. Now you have the guy that's that Adam Thielen or Jefferson that's easy to make the play. You have to have good execution if you do rush 3. Why not just be aggressive on both sides of the ball? You just go, all right, here we go. It's going to be Charles Harris, Michael Brockers, Austin Bryant, Trey Flowers, and then bring in a safety on a blitz. And if we get beat, so be it. If a guy goes galloping into the end zone with 37 seconds left, so be it. Let's just bring pressure on 3 consecutive downs and make Kirk Cousins find the receiver quicker. Why won't they do it? Are they that shocked or embarrassed or that? Because Charles Harris is fine. Austin Bryant could do the job. You have a second-round pick in Julian Okwara. At this point in time, and Trey Flowers, at this point in time, you really are so risk-averse to bring pressure? What's the difference? Wouldn't it hurt less if you just gave up the touchdown? Fine. If Kirk Cousins finds the hot read and the guy goes galloping and you miss a tackle, so be it. You at least can say, we brought pressure, great play by Cousins, he found the open guy, and we didn't make the tackle. I mean, at this point in time, just go balls to the wall on both sides of the ball. You're going balls to the wall like full throttle on offense, but on defense, you're kind of pussying out.
Don't you think, though, that he'd end up getting condemned for that, too? Like, no. Why'd you bring everybody?
No, you just say, I brought everybody because they were successful. You guys are seeing Charles Harris is a sack in the last 4 games. They're successful. That's the thing, is that why not at least give yourself an opportunity? Maybe you sack him. Maybe you hit him. Maybe a guy comes barreling in, he puts his hand up, and you force Kirk Cousins into a mistake. Why is it that we got to get dinked and dunked to death? And why is it that an offense can get chunk plays from their own side of the field to the part where they can get into field goal range? Why is it? I mean, I think I'd just rather have them bring the pressure, bring 5 and let it rip. And that's just my way of thinking. Am I wrong? Am I being too aggressive here on defense? Because I obviously have seen defenses come in and blitz, and I get excited when I see it. Every single time I see a blitz, I get excited.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think if you're going to do it, this is the season to do it, right? I mean, It's obvious that you're not really playing for anything. Like, you're not going to make the playoffs. You're not going to, I don't know, set some record by just wheeling off 10 straight wins. Like, it's not going to happen. The team doesn't have the talent for that. So if you're going to do it and you want to try some things and you want to be extremely aggressive on defense, blitz 95% of the time. I don't care. As long as you're seeing things. And again, going into the season, what were the expectations? You nor I had really any expectations. I think both of us thought that this team would win closer to 5 games than they'd win no games. And right now it's looking like they're going to be closer to winning 0 games.
1 to 2.
I mean, it's one of those things where we didn't have a lot of expectations for this season. We didn't expect this team to really compete. I'm excited this is a total rebuild, right? Like, this is a complete teardown. Something that you nor I have ever seen in our entire lives are the Detroit Lions come out and say, hey, Everything sucks. We're redoing it all. Like, we're ripping it all down and we're building it all back up. This is a total rebuild. This is what it looks like. It sucks. Every week it blows. It's
painful. It's painful.
So if you're going to try stuff, this is the time to do it. It is painful. It sucks.
It sucks. It's interesting, man. Very much so. But these Detroit Lions, stick with them. I think they're playing hard. I think that at least they're entertaining enough to keep you engaged for a couple hours. And hey, with the running game, it was fast paced. You got damn near into the second quarter deep at like 2:10. So that was pretty good. And then of course when I tweet that, the pace slows down to a grinding halt. But these Detroit Lions, they return home, Ford Field, first time in front of the fans since Justin Tucker put in a 66-yarder. Let's see how the fans react.
66-yard dagger through our hearts.
Oh, man. What are you going to do? But let's turn our attention, one last topic here. I definitely want to get your sense. Two things I think that are kind of riling up Detroit Red Wings fans heading into the season tonight. First and foremost, schedule makers, do you really have to pit the Wings against the Lightning, especially after the Lightning just lost to the Penguins? Do you really want to see that? I was like, what the hell? Fine.
Lightning looked flat, though. Lightning did not look like they were the Lightning.
Right.
They looked like they were the old Detroit Red Wings.
Exactly. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens on Thursday night. Tonight, baby. Two things that I think are lighting the fire under Red Wings fans. One, a certain portion were not happy that Bobby Ryan got cut. So I know you're paying attention. I want to get your thoughts on that. Did he potentially earn an opportunity with a tryout to make this team again? Or do you agree with the decision and the Yzer plan moving forward? And finally, we get an opportunity. A 19-year-old has made the roster. The performance that Lucas Raymond had against Chicago really impressed the coaching staff in Blashill and Yzerman. And from what I've surmised and what I saw, because I caught a lot of the preseason as well, heading into this interesting season for the Wings, the Blackhawks kind of put out a lineup that was ready to go. And they were not messing around, and they were trying to put out and play at a regular season pace. And Lucas Raymond held his own. He looked like he belonged. He looked like he was out there potentially having the ability to hold his own with puck possession and size, speed, strength. And if you're going into the season and you're going to pair him with Bertuzzi and Dylan Larkin, why not? I think that this has an opportunity to work, but I'm pleasantly surprised. We talked about it. We kind of, threw the carrot out there. I know Steve Yzerman listens to the podcast on the down low when he's running there in Detroit. He definitely listens. He's like, oh, DocNJock said put him on. Hey, we'll have a certain segment of the hockey audience to listen to them, and we'll get some support. Instead of getting, 14,000, we might get 14.5 at Little Caesars. And hey, if you get those extra 500 people, hey, that works for anybody out there in the National Hockey League. So what do you think? What do you think of those two roster decisions? And we'll get a quick preview here of the season.
As far as Bobby Ryan goes, I'm not really shocked and I'm not really upset by it. I think the one thing Bobby Ryan would have brought to the team is he'd have been a guy who you could have possibly traded later in the year. Oh. He's a guy who you could have possibly moved when this team might be out of it, or if things weren't going well. He's a guy you could have possibly moved to get a couple of draft picks. Don't know how high those draft picks could be, but they'd be more ammunition for Steve Yzerman to continue this rebuild. And we've seen what Steve Yzerman does in the draft. He's pretty good. He's actually really good at acquiring that draft capital and then basically unloading it to get more things, more shiny toys. One of those shiny toys that made the roster, Lucas Raymond, I'm pleasantly surprised with. I love it. I think it's great. I think it's a bit of a tip of the cap to this youth movement, but I think more importantly, Lucas Raymond signifies what the Detroit coaches want and what Steve Yzerman is looking for, what the mindset of this team is. Lucas Raymond, as good as he is offensively, like you glossed him up about how good he is offensively, Lucas Raymond is really smart and very responsible defensively. And that is the one thing that usually holds back the offensive forwards on this team, right? Is they're just not responsible in the defensive zone, and that leads to them being stuck down in Grand Rapids. And that's why they don't get called up. Or when they do get called up, if they don't show that, they get sent back down right away. Or in the case of Anthony Mantha, you get traded. So it's having the offensive ability, but it's also being responsible in your own zone and being able to take care of the puck. That is the one thing that gets you very, very far here on this Detroit team. And I think Lucas Raymond, at a very young age, shows the ability to dazzle you with the offense, but to be mindful and be smart in the defensive zone. And I think that's why he made the roster. I think this is a guy who you can kind of pin some hopes on here. He looks like he's the real deal. He looks like he should be one of your top line forwards, and it looks like he's a guy who's going to do it on the power play and a guy who's going to possibly do it on your penalty kill, which makes me excited. And look, I don't have any problems with the roster moves. I'm not sure where you are with your expectations for this season. I think they're going to be better than they were last year. At least that's the hope, right? I don't expect this team to necessarily be competing for a playoff spot. I do expect them, as the season gets into those later months, I expect them to be making things difficult for some playoff teams and maybe getting some late wins and forcing some guys to really show up when the team has to make a playoff spot. But I don't expect the Red Wings to be making that playoff spot.
Oh, no playoffs this year?
I don't think so. There's just too much work to still be done.
Yeah, I know. It's tough, man. It's just one of those things where...
You got Bert out there not getting vaccinated, and Bert's like, hey, I'll miss some of these games. And they're like, oh okay. I'm like, man, I don't know. Everything is weird. I think this team just they don't have enough talent yet. But they're getting there.
Okay. What would be acceptable for you? What is one thing that you just need to see this year that would make you happy? I just need to see Dylan Larkin own the captaincy and do what you can.
I think that's a good one. I think him actually exerting himself and basically being the captain, looking like he is the leader of this team. You can do that multitude of ways. You can do that by getting on the scoreboard. You can do that by really owning that locker room and basically you can see it on the bench when they start talking to other guys like, hey, you should do this, we should do that. The one thing I've liked from Dylan Larkin so far is his willingness to cut to the middle and go towards the net. I like that. Otherwise, one thing I want to see is the defense really bow up and really look strong, especially a guy like Mo Sider, another young guy coming up. I want to see that. I want to see basically your top 4 defensemen, and I want to see your top 6 forwards show me some growth, because that'll let me know that we're building in the right direction and that you're going to get some production from a lot of these young guys. And things are headed where we need them to go so this team can be successful.
Make sure to follow Adam all throughout the Red Wings season on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. We'll try to find a way to find wherever Bally Sports Detroit is broadcasting, because it seems like they're broadcasting on one streaming site in the entire country. And every time that they post something about Bally Sports Detroit, all you see on the comments are, we can't find it. Dish, DirecTV, AT&T, none of the streaming services have it. Way to go, Bally Sports Detroit. You put your product on one spot. But I will say this. I do pinch it from your aunt. So I have the password and the opportunity to watch the Red Wings and comment. So make sure you stay tuned.
You might need to share that with me.
Yeah. We'll find out all of a sudden right in overtime in the shootout. Oh, they caught us.
Screen limit's been maximized.
And then your aunt will be like, she'll definitely call my wife and be like, what's going on? And we're like, oh my God, this is not what we're looking for. Make sure you follow the network at Detroit Podcast as we have fun in the world of sports. And anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, make sure you hit Detroit Sports Podcast, and you can find our daily content each and every day where we broadcast about Michigan, Michigan State, the Detroit Lions, Tigers, Wings, all things related to Detroit sports. You can find it on the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. Thanks, cuz. I had a really good time.